Hello everyone, thank you for listening to the Week 14 presentation. We'll introduce and discuss about the movie Taxi Driver. Our team members are Kim Sang-yeon, Park Hyun-soo, Seo Jae-hyuk, and Yang Han-seo. Our team's presentation will cover these contents. First, we'll deal with the basic information and plot summary about the movie. Then, introducing investigation of major historical events and figures. Also, we'll talk about historical accuracy and inaccuracy about this movie. Finally, some of discussion questions are prepared for movie and our presentation. So, let's get started. First, let's talk about the basic information of the film Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver is a South Korean movie released in 2017, directed by Jang Hoon. The movie made a profit of $81 million and made a huge achievement with 20 million viewers in Korea. In addition to Grand Bell Awards and the Blue Dragon Awards for the best film, it was a huge success with numerous awards. Meanwhile, China has banned the film from being shown in the country because the conflict between citizens and troops depicted in the film is reminiscent of the 1989 Tiananmen Square incident. The main plot of the film is based on a true story related to May 18 Gwangju democratization uprising and tells the story of Jürgen Hinspeter and Kim Sabok. We've summed up the storyline of the Taxi Driver by event.
So who is Jürgen Hinspeter? He's a German reporter who is called as the Witness with Blue Eyes in Korea. His nickname originates from what he has done for the May 18 Gwangju democratization movement. In 1980, when he was working as a Japanese correspondent, he heard about the situation of Gwangju. Then he went to Gwangju where martial law was proclaimed and covered the case. With the help of Kim Sabok, he reported the recorded horrors of Gwangju to the world through the German newspaper. Regarding what he has done for the May 18 Gwangju democratization movement, he was awarded the Press Awards of Songgonu in November 2003. He was especially praised for moving up the democratization with the fierce spirit of journalists risking the fear of death. He searched for Kim Sabok from then until he passed away at the age of 79 but failed. According to his will, he was laid in state in Gwangju Mangwol-dong in the May 18 Memorial Foundation. So why did Jürgen Hinspeter fail finding Kim Sabok? Before and right after the release of the movie Taxi Driver, everyone was curious about why didn't Kim Sabok appear even Jürgen Hinspeter officially searched for him. After the release of the movie, Kim Seung-pil, who called himself as the son of Kim Sabok, suddenly appeared. So all the information we have now is the testimony of his son. Unlike what the movie says, Kim Sabok was the taxi driver who belonged to the Palace Hotel but not a private taxi driver. The movie depicts Kim Sabok as a poor speaker of English and who didn't know anything about Gwangju but just followed Jürgen Hinspeter. However, Kim Sabok was actually a good speaker of English who took charge of the foreign visitors and was introduced to Jürgen Hinspeter. Besides, according to the movie, Kim Sabok was still driving a taxi in Seoul when Jürgen Hinspeter was awarded in 2003, but Kim Sabok actually passed away in December of 1984 because of heavy drinking due to the shock about Gwangju. And since he never talked much about what he experienced in Gwangju to his family also realized after the release of the movie. So after the release in 2018, Kim Sabok was able to be laid next to Jürgen Hinspeter in Gwangju.
Aforementioned, the movie focuses on May 18th democratic movement. It is the movement launched in 1980 by Gwangju citizens, demanding the establishment of a democratic government as soon as possible, the resignation of new military forces including Jeon Do-hwan, and the abolition of martial law. German reporter Hinspeter first announced the movement and its charter. Of the numerous incidents of this democratic movement, there are two major incidents in the movie. First is MBC fire incident on 1980 May 21st night. The government controlled the media to cover up the truth of the May 18th democratic movement and exposed all the entertainment and sports contents to media and provided press-favorable broadcasting and news to the martial law forces. These are reasons why demonstrators burned the broadcasting stations. People insisted the withdrawal of martial law and burned the control media MBC. Book of Hwang Seok-young, Beyond Death and Beyond the Darkness of the Times, mentions that citizens watched eagerly, hoping that new news about their fate would be aired on TV, but all the operas and entertainment programs that had nothing to do with TV were airing, as if nothing had happened. As they watched TV, they felt their burning anger. On one side, the same compatriot was screaming and dying innocently, and it was betrayal of the dance that shakes the legs of the TV was for. Citizens were now clearly realizing that no one was in the midst of this fight any longer just for younger students. It was these feelings that forced the cultural broadcasting station to be burned next day. In the movie, when reporters from Gwangju local newspaper tried to produce a newspaper that reported the brutal suppression of troops and damage of citizens, newspaper executives blocked it and turned off the printing press. Second is Geumnam Street mass firing on 1980 May 20th to May 21st, and it was for 2 days. Citizens began to resist more aggressively. Looking at the picture on left side, you can notice that there are lots of vehicles on the street. During this demonstration, taxi and bus drivers actively participated and helped students to demonstrate. Also, the most casualties occurred, and this incident is well known as that the martial law forces shot the citizens. On May 24 p.m., the drivers gathered at Mudung Stadium, drove taxis, buses, and trucks to Geumnam Road and headed to Jeonnam Provincial Office. The vehicle demonstration on the evening of May 20th ended due to the interception of troops, but citizens did not stop. Even though emergency martial law was extended across the country and there was curfew, citizens fought against the troops. On the midnight of this day, the bodies of 2 people who were shot and killed by martial law forces were carried on a rear car at Gwangju Station. So it became known that martial law forces shot at citizens. The fact that soldiers shot the public and the violence of them aroused the anger of Gwangju citizens. So on the next day, May 21st, a crowd of 70,000 people on record gathered at Geumnam Street. Earlier in the day, Martial Law Commander Lee Hee-sung announced the Gwangju incident statement and stressed that May 18th movement is the destruction, arson, and instigation of spies, insisting the martial law army's right to self-defense. This implied that order to fire citizens had already been allowed. Later at 10:10 a.m., leave ammunition was given to troops at the provincial government plaza. At 1 p.m., citizens flocked to the Jeonnam provincial office. Martial law forces fired to stop them, and this has killed many citizens, and the number of dead bodies is still unknown. At 5:30 p.m., the martial law forces finally withdrew from the Jeonnam provincial office and moved to the outskirts of Gwangju and thoroughly blocked Gwangju. These incidents left trauma to many people. Jang Hoon-myung and Lee Haeng-gi, the real taxi driver at the time, said that soldiers wearing gas masks smashed the glass of the car and indiscriminately beat the driver and students inside the car. When the demonstrating vehicle reached the martial law military line on Geumnam Street, the martial law forces fired a huge amount of tear gas to suppress them. Soldiers actually hit people with a baseball bat and stabbed on the spine with the heel of shoe. And these brutal things made people have trauma after the movement.
The movie Taxi Driver is said to be a film of true story 518 Democratic Uprising. So, let's look at the historical accuracy and historical inaccuracy of the events in the film and see how true they are based on the true story, but how many adaptations they are made. In the movie, citizens testify about the mass firing of hospital airborne troops. They said soldiers lined up in firing positions on the road, indiscriminately shooting people outside and also helping those who were shot. This can be seen on the two data in PPT. Two data are not real-life events of the scenes from the movie, but they represented that there were many other shootings to citizens. The matter on the left is an interview with a reporter with blue eyes. The reporter turned out to be Hans Peter, and the contents of the interview revealed not only the hospital shooting but also the shooting at the bank. The data on the right is news data showing 91 citizens shot at a hospital in Gwangju had emergency surgery, which can be inferred that far more people were killed or injured than the number of victims in the movie. There is a part that seems to be the least realistic part of the movie. That is, when Mansub and Peter were caught by meteor law forces before leaving Gwangju, the soldier who ignored them and helped them pass by was the real person. This, Hans Peter said, was able to spread the May 18 crisis around the world thanks to the very help he made in an interview with media outlets after the May 18 incident. The soldier's appearance contrasts with the violent and coercive images of other soldiers we saw in the film. So, have any other soldiers actually regretted and criticized or opposed the May 18 incident? The PPT shows an interview with a soldier who participated in the May 18 incident. In an interview, he states that they were forced to follow the coercive command system coming down from the government, and that there was a lot of shame and after effects left in the positions of being forced to watch the violence. Through this interview, we can see that not all the soldiers at the time were involved in violence. As in the film, what the government actually did most deliberately to isolate Gwangju surely was media control. First of all, in the movie, the entrance was monitored through meteor law forces so that the situation in the Gwangju would not go out, and the situation in Gwangju was falsely told to the outside world so that outsiders would not pay attention to the situation in Gwangju. In addition, the May 18 incident turned into a Gwangju riot incident, making it easier for the military to enter and exit Gwangju, and justified their actions by saying that if a civil assault case was known to the outside world, the rioters would be overpowered. In addition, the Gwangju Internal Newspaper Company was abolished to prevent the distribution of information and burn down Gwangju MBC. The picture on the left is a scene from a movie, and the news on television is a false report of Gwangju's incident. The data in the upper right-hand corner are newspaper articles about media companies that were then forced by the government to scrap or merge into their own media affiliates. The data on the bottom right shows that the burning scene of Gwangju MBC in the movie actually happened, and there are hypotheses that the reason why Gwangju MBC was set on fire was because of the citizens' anger on and protest, or that the Martial Law Army might have blocked information through MBC. In the movie, Hans Peter was the only foreign reporter who went to Gwangju by taxi from the airport. However, it turned out that there were actually two people. The other person besides Hans Peter is Logan, a courageous and respectable person who planned to share the situation in Gwangju with Hans Peter even before he came to Korea as a reporter in charge of recording. The film director says the reason he was missing in the film was because of his composition and progress problems. In short, it's because it's awkward for three people to be shot in one shot. However, we should not forget him, not just Hans Peter, just because he was excluded from the film. There are supporting roles in the movie to help with tension and interest. First of all, the plainclothes police Choi Gi-hwa, who interfered with Mansup's group throughout the movie, appears as a villain. Unlike the movie, however, there were no police officers chasing Mansup and his Peter at the time of the May 18 incident. In the movie, there are scenes of soldiers killing foreign journalists or obstructing news coverage and dealing with rough handling, which is also hard to find. Therefore, the plainclothes police is just a fictional villain who raises the tension in the movie. If there is a villain, some people play the role of helper to help the main character Mansup and Peter. In the film, Gwangju taxi drivers play the role. At the end of the movie, they help plainclothes police beat out police instead of Mansup and Peter in the chase scene where they chase after Mansup and Peter. In fact, however, there were no taxi drivers who helped Mansup and Peter escape Gwangju, and the chase scene itself was a fictional event that increased the fun and tension of the movie.
Now, moving on to our first discussion question, most of the soldiers and taxi driver are negatively depicted. The soldiers ruthlessly slaughter civilians using armaments and beat them without any specific reasons. However, as we mentioned in the previous slide, the director included the scene of a soldier overlooking the cell number plate and enabling Kim Sa-bok and Ryugen Hans-Peter to get out from Gwangju. So what do you think is the reason for the director to include this scene? How can we evaluate the soldiers who secretly helped the civilians? Besides, there were some soldiers who were told to slaughter civilians on the charge of them being communists, but had no other way to know the truth. Considering all these different stances of soldiers, can we criticize all the soldiers in May 18 Gwangju democratization movement? Our group's thoughts on this question are like this. We guess that the reason for the director to include this scene was to suggest the audience a slightly different perspective viewing the soldiers of May 18 movement. We think it is important to know the motivation of soldiers slaughtering civilians. However, even they were ignorant about the overall situation due to the control of all relevant information, we still believe no reason could justify the slaughtering of civilians, and it is inevitable for them to be criticized. Moreover, the scene of the overlooking soldier never embellishes the soldiers as a whole, but gives us a sense that it is difficult to clearly divide historic groups into two categories, good or bad. What we think is more important and we can learn from these facts are the meaning of democracy by confirming how dictatorship could be actually violent by making people ignorant about the truth.
As depicted in one scene in the movie, domestic journalists were more helpless than anyone else. As the May 18 democratization uprising evolved, the local media failed to report the violence and misery committed by martial law forces. It's because the military blocked the news. Angry citizens burned or destroyed press and broadcast stations such as Gwangju KBS and MBC. Citizens made great effort to inform the situation in Gwangju, including the publication of the Tusa-haebo. But medias were tied to government. The Gwangju democratization movement was reported as a Gwangju crisis and violence under military pressure. So, can we take responsibility for the media that hid or failed to inform the truth at the time of May 18th democratization uprising? As we can see from the movie scene, local reporters tried to inform the situation in Gwangju at the time. However, due to the pressure from the intelligence agency, it is not possible to release the article. All the news and articles of the time went through government surveillance and censorship. There was also constant pressure on media, including the military government's consolidation, blacklisting, and collective dismissal of media. While some of these circumstances inevitably fail to convey information and truth, there must be some who still maliciously cooperate with military government. Given these circumstances, we have historically thought that there is a difficulty in generalizing a group as positive or negative.
This is our last discussion question. According to the movie, Kim Sabok never showed his strong belief in democracy, and in the beginning he was even indifferent to the political situation of Korea in 1980. However, he still helped Widugan Hinthbetter and the citizens of Gwangju due to his belief in human duty and sympathy toward them. Not only Kim Sabok, but there were lots of people in reality who joined the May 18 Gwangju democratization movement without specific political thoughts, but due to diverse reasons, such as just to help the patients and so on. However, we still praise Kim Sabok and other Gwangju citizens for supporting and sacrificing themselves for the democracy of Korea. So what do you think is the core reason for us giving thanks to people like them who did not actually protested, especially for democracy? Our group thinks, considering the situation of the May 18 Gwangju democratization movement, just helping the patients and the demonstrators without any specific purpose, but just with good intentions, could still put them in danger and even threaten life. Therefore, we think not only those who actually joined the protest, but who supported them could also be counted as those who contributed to the democratization regardless of their political stances. Moreover, even if one did not have any specific ideas on democracy, we think them joining the movement due to their resentment toward the dictatorship resorting to violence against civilians could somewhat be interpreted as a longing for democracy. So we think for this case, what more important is the behavior itself rather than the reason for doing a particular act. That is to say that Kim Sabok and other Gwangju citizens deserve the credit for contributing to bringing the democratization. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and please feel free to share your thoughts regarding our discussion questions.